Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. If you're just joining us, part 1 of this 94 Bridgestone MB2 build was a ride. We threw out the original plan for this last-minute project, squeezed a ridiculous 52-tooth cassette onto a vintage hub, battled broken tools, and even swapped out the suspension fork for a rigid fork. We left off with a half-built bike and waited for a pile of new parts to arrive. Well, the wait is over. The boxers are here, and in this episode, we're finally bringing this unexpected build to life. Beyond creating an easy riding machine with massive gear range, there's a very personal reason behind the bike's unique setup. A reason I'll reveal at the end of the video. Let's get to work and find out if this impulsive project is a stroke of genius or a total flop. The first part to arrive was this wolf tooth narrow-wide chainring. Since these cranks were 94 BCD, my choices were kind of limited and I ended up with the 32T chainring. This probably brings the ridiculous gear range to another level, but I'm going to keep an open mind and see how this works. During installation, I discovered that one of the chainring bolt holes seems to have a slightly more narrow hole that's not threaded like the others. The nuts that came off the original setup are too wide to fit. Do any of you know what kind of bolt I need for this hole? For now, I'll ride without this hole filled. With the chain ring installed, it's time to place it back onto the bike where it belongs. I slide the crank arm over the spindle in the correct orientation. I next use the crank arm bolt and tighten things down. Lastly, I give them a whirl. With our crank arm firmly in place, it's finally time for what feels like a major step forward, installing the new 10-speed chain. This is where all those custom gearing choices really start to connect. Thankfully, it turns out this chain is the perfect length right out of the box, no sizing needed, which is a nice little win. And just like that, we have a completed drivetrain. Seeing this chain wrap around our ridiculous gear range is incredibly satisfying after all the hurdles we faced. Now, the real test comes once we get this bike fully assembled and out on the road. With our new chain installed, it's time to bring our gearing to life by replacing the rear shift cable. First, we'll open up the shifter and carefully remove the old cable, making sure to pay extra close attention to the exact path. This little detail can save a lot of headaches later on. To get our new, longer shift cable perfectly routed, we actually need to take the shifter off the handlebars. This gives us the access and angles we need to correctly feed the cable through the internal channels. Once the new cable is correctly seated and routed, we can replace that small cover. Finally, we coil up the excess cable, making the whole package much tidier and easier to reinstall back on the handlebars. Now, with the fresh cable, we're ready for the next step, dialing in our ridiculous gear range. With our new shift cable securely installed, it's time to reunite the shifter and brake lever with the handlebars. Sliding them back into their optimal position is key for comfort and intuitive control. Now for the moment of truth, testing the new shift cable. That satisfying click, click, click as we move through the gears is telling us our routing efforts were successful. The new cable feels smooth and responsive. With the shifter working smoothly, we can now run our cables through the housing. Carefully routing the housing along the frame towards the rear of the bike. We finally reach our destination, the rear derailleur. Now it's time to secure the cable to the derailleur, which should allow the shifter to precisely control our ridiculous gear range. Now, the moment of truth for our ridiculous gear range. making these 9 cogs play nice with our 10-speed Advent X components. We'll start by adjusting the high gear limit screw. This tiny screw is crucial for ensuring the derailleur's perfect alignment with the smallest cog. Once that's sorted, we move on to the low limit screw. Since we're intentionally missing that 10th cog, this screw becomes our guardian, blocking the derailleur from overshifting. It ensures the chain can't drop into a non-existent gear, which would be a quick way to cause some serious trouble. With both limit screws precisely set, it's all about fine-tuning. A few careful turns of the barrel adjusters, and we can dial in the cable tension, bringing everything into perfect harmony. The result? Clean, crisp shifts across our entire 9-speed custom setup. It's incredibly satisfying to finally see our ambitious gearing strategy come to life. After all the major drivetrain hurdles, the final piece of our puzzle has finally arrived: a front hanger for our cantilever brakes. It might seem like a small part, but it's been the missing link for getting our front brakes operational. I've probably left countless of these hangers on bikes I've converted to V-brakes over the years, never giving them a second thought. But not anymore. From now on, every one of these little gems is getting pulled and tossed into my parts bin. You never know when you'll need one, as this build clearly proved. With the hanger in place, we simply reverse the process. Carefully reinstall the lock nut, then the stem and handlebars. The bike looks just as we found it, but now, crucially, a cantilever brake hanger sits proudly where a simple spacer once was. Now, let's get these brakes installed. I'll start with the rear brake. I first install a fresh cable onto the brake lever. This is followed by threading the new brake cable through the cable housing. Then we route everything towards the back of the bike. At the rear of the bike, I thread the cable through one last piece of housing and then through the brake arm. I squeeze the cantilever brake levers together and tighten the cable. It's now time for testing. I give the wheel a good spin. Not good. Not good at all. No stopping power. I remove the wheel and attempt to resurface the brake pads with some sandpaper. We try again, but almost the same results. We have some weather coming in and I need to finish this build. I'll tweak these brakes later. With our cantilever hanger in place, it's finally time to get some stopping power on the front wheel. We'll start by greasing the brake bosses. This small step is crucial for smooth brake action and prevents any further seizing. Next, both cantilever brake arms go into place, securing them down with their bolts. It's great to see these classic brakes coming together. Now onto the handlebars to install the front brake lever. I'm making sure it's aligned perfectly with the rear brake lever for consistent and comfortable feel. These levers are super versatile. They can handle short pull for cantilever brakes like ours, or long pull for V-brakes. I got them set up short pull so they'll match perfectly with our canties. We'll thread the cable through its housing, routing it neatly down towards the front brakes. Once we reach the brakes, we attach the cable to the arms. A quick squeeze of the brake arms to set the initial tension, tighten down the anchor bolt, and we're almost there. A quick spin of the wheel and a squeeze of the lever. They seem okay. It's not perfect yet, but we've got some stopping power. With our brakes ready to go, it's time for the final touch on the drivetrain, installing the pedals. I've chosen these versatile steel pedals, offering the best of both worlds. SPD on one side for efficiency, and a flat platform on the other side for casual rides. Remember, pedals are side-specific and thread in the opposite directions. righty-tighty for the right, lefty-tighty for the left. A little grease on the threads ensures smooth installation and makes removal much easier down the road. With the pedals on, our last piece of the ergonomic puzzle for an upright riding position is the saddle. This old, narrow saddle just isn't going to cut it for the kind of comfortable long-range cruising we're aiming for. It's simply not optimal for how we'll be sitting on this bike. In its place, we're going to go with a true icon of comfort, the Brooks B67 in a beautiful tan finish. This isn't just any saddle. It's specifically designed for an upright riding position with a wider seating area and springs for increased shock absorption. This saddle alone should provide optimal comfort, making those long rides with our ridiculous gear range an absolute joy. With our saddle set for comfort, it's time to finish off the rider contact points and get these handlebars ready. We're installing the new handlebar grips, which will provide crucial comfort and control. These grips slide on, and once secure, they'll make a huge difference in how the bike feels. Every point of contact should be dialed in for our new upright riding position. Next, it's time to clean up our brake and shift cables. We'll cut the excess cables to the appropriate length. A clean cut here is important to prevent fraying and ensure smooth operation. Finally, we'll crimp on these little cable ends. Not only do they keep the cables from fraying, giving us a clean professional finish, but they're a small detail that makes a big difference in the overall look of the bike. Now, all of our controls are wrapped up, and this ridiculous gear range is ready to hit the road. It's finally time. After all the unexpected turns, the last-minute swaps, the broken tools, and the triumphs of fitting a ridiculous gear range where it arguably shouldn't go, the 1994 Bridgestone MB2 is complete and ready for its maiden voyage. As I glide along, I want to talk about the real reason behind this seemingly over-the-top, ridiculously geared, upright machine. Since last December, I've been battling a nagging shoulder injury. It's made riding my normal bikes incredibly painful, and honestly, it's kept me off two wheels for most of the year, which is pretty tough for me. That's why this build became so important. This upright riding position is designed to significantly lessen the pressure on my shoulder, hopefully enabling me to ride longer and enjoyably again. And that ridiculous gear range? That's for the hills. We have plenty of short, punchy climbs around here that would normally force me to stand up out of the saddle, a move that is currently excruciating with my injury. These easy gears are my answer, allowing me to spin up those hills comfortably while staying seated. When I'm fully healed, I'll probably tweak things back to a more reasonable setup. But for now, this ridiculous gear range combined with the upright ride isn't just a fun project, it's genuinely the answer to my prayers, getting me back onto the bike and enjoying the ride. Thanks for joining me along this wild build.